Hey, BookTube. Coming at you with a recent reading report. Excuse my weakness of voice, having some health issues that can't really afford to cover. Welcome to America. And after my last reading of Virginia Giuffre's book, I definitely needed a fiction break, and it just so happened I picked this up about a month earlier, and it surprisingly it ties in with March Mystery Madness, or I forget what the event exactly what the event's called, but this private detective story falls into there. It is written by Max Allan Collins, and it's based on an unfinished manuscript by Mickey Spillane. It's a one of his Mike Hammer novels, and Kiss Her Goodbye came out in 2011. And here's our authors. There's Max Allan Collins, looking very beatnikish there. 2000s era beatniky, and there's Mickey. And this was mostly a nice break for me. I really liked about the first 80% of the book. It was interesting break from what I've been reading and thinking and all that. And I think Max did a really good job of getting you into this world of Mike Hammer, and but somewhere around the 80% mark, all of a sudden the writing got a little clunky for me, which is weird because up until then I was actually pretty impressed by the style. Even there was even a couple lines that made me go, "That's a really good line." But then also we hit the spot. It kind of evens out a bit, but basically, I'm wondering if my problem with the book is that maybe it has to wrap up in the way a Mike Hammer novel wraps up, which I'm not terribly familiar with. I'm more from any Mike Hammer stuff I'm familiar with is a bit more TV and film based. I'm aware of Spillane as an influential writer, but I'm not sure that I've ever read any of his books. I certainly will. But the Mike Hammer character itself, I suppose some would call him an anti-hero, but and he's really walking that fine line. One character in here is very disturbed by the glee in which Hammer kills an attacker. Give you an idea there. So yeah, the Hammer character in here, he's older, he's hurt, he's emotionally and physically, and he makes a return to New York for the funeral of a friend who appears to have committed suicide, or did he? And from there, the mystery begins, and the bodies start piling up. An interesting but kind of convoluted tie up here. I won't divulge of all that. But for the most part, I enjoyed it. I did not really care for a lot of the. I asked Steve Donahue what he thought of Mickey Splane's writing, and he said ugly came to mind, and there is some real ugliness here, and I think that word describes particularly the Hammer character pretty well. I mean, there's a weird likableness to him, but also very ugly, and it gets really over the top violent. I will give. I can't speak on Spillane's writing, but for Max, I think he writes in a very cinematic way at times, and at least that's the way in my head I was envisioning a lot. A lot of it came across as very cinematic, almost like Japanese gangster to me, and at times also like Frank Miller, Sin City type, which maybe kind of influenced by this book cover design. I don't know, but that starkness in here, a lot of similarities. I think Max is quite talented at what he does. I've only read a few books by him now. It does seem to stumble a bit at times, but he's clearly, obviously doing a fine job. So anyway, Kiss Her Goodbye, 2011. Check it out if you're so inclined. And after that, or in between that, I've been reading The Project by David A. Graham, and this is a subtitle here, How Project 2025 is Reshaping America. And this came out in 2025, and it's basically a little under 140-page summary of Project 2025, which is written by numerous contributors. And if I recall right, it's at least 900 pages long. So this is a more concise version of that. He also gives you a brief introduction to some of the contributors. Probably the most disturbing thing about this, other than the actual, so much of what's in here has already been implemented or is being implemented right now. And if you recall right, Trump was like, I don't know anything about 2025. I don't know what you're talking about. And from day one, they started implementing all the stuff, so much stuff that's in here. And it will almost, even though this just came out last year, a lot of this will kind of always seem like obvious or old news. But it lets you know what was in place there. And as we get to the close of the book, they start discussing foreign policy, foreign policy and defense, and it really gets into their view of basically getting back to a Cold War mentality, which is really disturbing. The author does point out, even when they bring up good points about this or that, it's often followed by, he's like, they don't have any examples, or they don't cite, a lot of times they're not citing sources or anything really credible other than what they think. And so much of this, they're mangling words like crazy. It's as if words have no value anymore, except for the value that they give them. And I think that's the point. And when they get into policy and stuff, they keep saying, arguing against wokeism and all this other crap. And but basically, it's their policy. It's their way or the highway. And that has been the Trump mentality. And it's all about purging people out of the government system that don't fall in line with that. They're critical of who's there, and because they have thoughts or their own thoughts or this or that, they're just, to them, they're just in the way. So it's our policy or nothing, which is really disturbing. I mean, we're a massive country here. So it's too much for me to get into in such a video, but if you're interested in Project 2025 and the current events, what's going on, this is a good quick read. It's got a very nice Bembo, I believe is the typeset they call it here. Yeah, Bembo. The typeface here is really easy on the eyes. So this is an easy read. So yeah, thank you for your time.